Please turn cell phones off. Good morning, everybody. Please turn cell phones off. We'll pause as you turn cell phones off. Please turn your cell phones off. We'll wait until everybody checks their phone. Bless you. I'm going to give Gail another minute. But I don't. That's your spot. Sir. Yeah, skip her and I'll squeeze her in. I'll squeeze her in. Okay. You're on.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our 19th annual commemoration of Kristallnacht. My name is Rabbi Lindsay Healy-Pollock, and I have the privilege of recently beginning a new position as rabbi here at Congregation Or Shalom. I've heard so much about this event, and I'm looking forward to experiencing it myself for the first time. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce Gail Schlossberg, CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, our partners in this event. Welcome, Gail.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, it's wonderful to be here on the 19th time that we are gathering to commemorate and learn together and remember what happened at Kristallnacht. I look forward to this event every year, and I'm delighted to be here with you this morning. I think we've got a wonderful program, and I just want to say thank you to all of the participants who are going to be sharing with us this morning. Just a shout out and a thank you to the Federation staff who make this possible, as well as to both of our rabbis who make sure that we have this event every single year. Now more than ever, it is so important that we come together and we remember these events. I think we hear echoes of what's going on today. And for many of us, it sends a chill up our spine. So what we take away from these days and these memories and these learnings and these gatherings is so significant that we know that we need to stand up and speak out and be together. And that as we experience what is going on in our world today, especially amongst our people, we need to find unity, not necessarily uniformity, as Rabbi Sachs would say, but unity in recognizing that we are one people on a shared journey with a shared history of shared experience and shared values, and that we struggle through this together. So I look forward to the evening, it's morning. It's busy at Federation. It's been a busy couple of years. I look forward to the event this morning and to learning and being with you, as always. So thank you.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you for all you do on behalf of the Greater New Haven Jewish community. It's my pleasure now to introduce the president of our men's club here at Congregation Or Shalom and the chairman of the Yellow Candle Fund, the fund that primarily sponsors this event, Mitch Goldblatt. And Mitch, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you and our men's club for being so supportive of our annual Kristallnacht commemorations over the years. And would you kindly give us a brief review of the history of Kristallnacht and will light a special candle in memory of the victims of the Holocaust.
Thank you, Rabbi Lindsay Healy-Pollack, and Mazel Tov on your new position here as Rabbi of Congregation Or Shalom. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to Greater New Haven's annual Kristallnacht commemoration. Friends, our November gatherings here these past 19 years have had two aims, two distinct purposes. First, as you know, we've gathered to recall a catastrophe that occurred 87 years ago, known as Kristallnacht. The very word Kristallnacht still fills us with anguish and dismay, as it refers to the horrific events that took place on November 9th and 10th, 1938, just prior to the start of World War II in Germany and other parts of Europe already ruled by the Nazis. In the course of these two horrific events in November, mobs rampaged through the streets of Germany and Austria in a massive anti-Jewish attack, planned, organized, and coordinated by the Nazi regime. During those nights, many Jews were murdered and maimed, and tens of thousands were dragged off to concentration camps. Thousands of Jewish-owned stores and businesses were ransacked and looted, and infamously, hundreds of synagogues and Jewish community centers, in fact, most of the Jewish houses of worship in the Nazi sphere, were burned to the ground in the full view of firefighters who were given explicit instructions to let the synagogues burn. Their only task was to prevent the fires from spreading to non-Jewish homes and businesses. Germans would later call those two nights of horror euphemistically the nights of broken glass, Kristallnacht, referring to the shattered window panes and shards of stained glass that littered the streets of Germany in the aftermath of the tragedy. As we know, ultimately, Kristallnacht would end up shattering more than windows and stained glass. Ultimately, Kristallnacht turned out to be only the prelude to a much larger disaster, which is about to shatter all of European Jewry, a disaster that came known as the Holocaust or the Shoah. At this time, therefore, we can't help but remember that during the following 7 years, from 1938 until the end of World War II, approximately 6 million innocent Jewish men and children, women and children, about 40% of the world's Jewish population would be murdered, systematically slaughtered. Also, we cannot help but recall the souls who were branded by the Nazi Germany as Untermenschen, or undesirable subhumans. The approximately 5 million innocent men, women, and children who were mentally disabled, gay, or Romani, or simply people who were openly critical of Nazism and thus marked for death by the Nazi regime. By 1945, European Judaism, the Jewish heartland, the home of Yiddish civilization, lay in ruins. So now, why observe Kristallnacht, the very beginning of this appalling period in world history? Why mark its opening scene? We do this because after Kristallnacht, in the aftermath of the savagery of those 2 days, the world was largely silent, mute. The overwhelming majority of peace-loving people around the world simply watched, shrugged their shoulders, and assumed that such evil would pass. It's a form of temporary insanity, most people whispered. A momentary bout of lunacy. It'll soon blow over. You'll see. Germany, people insisted, the birthplace of some of the world's greatest scientific and artistic achievements, home of the world's finest universities, will surely come to its senses. But looking back in hindsight, we all know the truth. It was that very silence at the outset of the Holocaust, that wishful thinking, that blind hope that Nazism would blow over, that gave Hitler permission, gave him a green light to proceed with an obscene plan. We gather at this time, therefore, to remember the prophetic words of the Irish philosopher Edmund Burke, who said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We gather every year to take that warning to heart and to broadcast it loudly. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. And thus, we come together every year, not only to condemn the hate that gave rise to the catastrophe that took place on this day 87 years ago, but to condemn the hate that still exists today. In recent years, our Kristallnacht commemoration has taken on even greater significance. For as you know all too well, we find ourselves today living in a time of rising big hate. Indeed, we've witnessed the mainstream these days. The Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, reports that this past year saw a sharp global increase in hate crimes aimed at minorities and minority groups, including Jewish Americans, who have suffered like never before from the scourge of anti-Semitism. Therefore, perhaps more urgently than ever, we've come together to proclaim that even though the world watched in silent astonishment after Kristallnacht, that we today will no longer be silent. We come together every year to condemn hate in all its forms, for hate must not have the final say. Evil must not have the final word. We open this commemoration this morning with the lighting of a yellow candle and a word of prayer. As I light this yellow candle, we'll pause for a moment of silent personal prayer and reflection. I'll now call on Rabbi Lindsay Healy-Pollack to offer up a prayer. I'll ask if you all kindly rise if you can at this time.
El Male Rachamim, God full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the souls of all of our brothers and sisters, men, women, and children of the house of Israel, the Jewish community, who were murdered at the hands of the Nazis. May they find peace in your sheltering presence. May their memory endure, inspiring truth, loyalty in our lives. May their memory serve as a blessing to us, to encourage us in our efforts to work for peace and to release the bonds of hatred and bigotry that we find in our world. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life. May they rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Please remain standing as Rabbi Lindsay Healy-Pollack will lead us in an age-old song for peace.
Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, amen. And I just wanted to add that it was Mitch's father, Barry Goldblatt, may he rest in peace, Alav HaShalom, who originally designed the yellow candle that's now produced by the Federation of Men's Clubs of Conservative Judaism. The candle's yellow color recalls the yellow Star of David that the Nazi regime forced our people to wear, targeting us for death. And I'll invite Mitch back up.
Thank you, Rabbi. You may be seated. If you don't typically receive a yellow candle, many of you don't, please consider obtaining one following today's program by seeing a men's club representative outside or by calling congregation, either Congregation or Shalom or the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven. If you receive a yellow candle, we then ask you join people from all over the world in lighting your own yellow candle on Holocaust Memorial Day, Yom HaShoah, which falls this coming spring on the evening of April 13th, 2026. Donations that are received are used for Holocaust programs and education, the most significant of those being this morning's event. We thank you very much on behalf of myself and the Men's Club. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Rabbi Alvin Wainhouse, Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation Or Shalom, who will focus on the theme of this morning's commemoration, the remarkable rescue work of Varian Fry. Rabbi Wainhouse.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Rabbi Healy Pollack, and Mazel Tov, Rabbi, once again on your new position here as Rabbi of Congregation Or Shalom. Let's all hear a hearty Mazel Tov. And Mitch, Mazel Tov as well on being reelected as selectman here in the town of Orange. Mazel Tov. He loves to stand up. He's a politician from the day one. Friends, as Mitch mentioned, we gather here every November for two reasons, two different purposes that in actuality are diametrically opposite in spirit. The first is, of course, to commemorate, to remember the catastrophe, the Shoah that began with Kristallnacht, and to vow publicly that the millions of innocents who were murdered will never be forgotten. But our second and perhaps more powerful motivation for gathering these past 19 years has been to recall that although heinous and monstrous acts, there's no word to describe the Holocaust, words pale in comparison to what happened. Although we recall the heinous and monstrous acts of mass murder committed during World War II, it's also true that in the midst of the darkness, the moral darkness that descended on Europe during the war, there were those who chose to stand up to evil and to combat evil rather than stand by and simply watch it happen. In fact, there were those who were even prepared to risk their lives and possibly even lose their lives rather than simply stand by and watch innocent human beings be hunted down like animals. Most of those incredibly courageous souls were ordinary people who suddenly found themselves, surprised themselves, doing extraordinary things to save lives, even the lives of total strangers. At our annual Kristallnacht commemorations every year, we've highlighted and celebrated the conscience and the courage of these amazing people, these heroes. For in celebrating their heroism, we proclaim their selfless acts will never be forgotten, must never be forgotten. In the midst of the darkness, they were beacons, brilliant luminaries, reminding us to this day that there is inconceivable goodness and kindness in the human heart, especially in these cynical times. We must remember that there is inconceivable goodness and kindness in the human heart. People talk about the mystery of evil. You've heard that expression. I love to talk about the mystery of goodness. That's what we're here to celebrate, not just evil, but the mystery of human goodness. Now, why do this here in a sanctuary? Why commemorate the blessed deeds of these individuals in the house of God? Well, in a word, in celebrating their acts, the acts of these moral heroes here in God's sanctuary, we highlight publicly what religion and what religiosity are truly about. What every great religion has always been about, namely, the quest for humanity, the quest for a higher level of humanity, the yearning for what we call in Yiddish Menschlichkeit, human fundamental decency, the kind of humanity that God sought to bring forth in the beginning, when the Bible proclaimed to the world that the human being was created in God's likeness and in God's own image. Which brings us to this morning's program and someone who did reflect God's presence on earth. People ask, where was God in the Holocaust? One answer is right here, folks. Right here. In the form of Varian Fry. This morning we'll spotlight the selfless deeds of Varian Fry. May his memory continue to bless us, Olav Shalom. Our topic this morning is the remarkable rescue work of Varian Fry. And this is an image, a great image, of Fry in the midst of his feverish activity, his feverish rescue activity in Marseille, France, sometime in 1941. Look closely at the picture. You'll see he's being approached by two individuals. There's a gentleman here, and there's a woman here, a lady here, and they're both approaching him at the same time. Look at his face. Look at his eyes. He's trying to save people, as many as he can. It's all embodied in this picture. I love this photo. What prompted our celebration of Varian Fry's rescue work this year, of all years? Well, it was the state of Connecticut's recent passage of the Varian Fry Day bill, approved by Connecticut's General Assembly last May, a few months ago, and signed by Governor Ned Lamont into law last June, proclaiming October 15th, Fry's birthday, Varian Fry's birthday, as Varian Fry Day throughout the state of Connecticut. But much more about that a little later on. Suffice it to say that it was that exciting development, the passage of the Varian Fry Day bill here in Connecticut, which was the fruit of Professor David Pettigrew's steadfast and tireless work, as well as the strong advocacy of the bill by Connecticut State Representative Matt Blumenthal, that prompted this morning's celebration of Varian Fry's rescue work. In fact, we're honored to have both Professor Pettigrew, chairman of the Department of Philosophy at Southern Connecticut State University, as well as Connecticut State Representative Blumenthal with us this morning. Both will soon speak to us. And you know, as long as I'm mentioning the names of those who made today's event possible, allow me to give a shout out to Orange. Believe it or not, people sometimes say, where'd you get the idea from? Every year I'm asked by at least one or two people, where did you get the idea from? This year, I got it from, believe it or not, Chief of Police here in Orange, Robert Gagne. Are you here? Please rise. who first, it was Chief Gagney who first alerted me to Dr. Pettigrew's and Representative Blumenthal's accomplishment in a text message, right? I believe Chief Gagney, and it was Chief, and he did that, of course, in light of the recent passage of the Friday bill. And as long as we're thanking you, Chief Gagney, thank you for all you do, and I mean it from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for all you do to keep us safe here in Orange. Please give. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Terrific Chief of Police. Our story this morning begins in the year 1940. In May of that year, 1940, Nazi Germany invaded France, and just a few weeks later, in only a matter of weeks, France fell. The French army was overwhelmed and crushed by Hitler's war machine. On June 14th, 1940, Paris fell to Germany. On that day, June 14th, that dark day, June 14th, 1940, the German army marched triumphantly, cynically, under Napoleon's Arch of Triumph, down the Champs-Élysées. Many of you have been there. You know that's where Hitler made sure to march down the Champs-Élysées and celebrated Germany's conquest of France by raising a German swastika flag, by unfurling a swastika flag atop the Eiffel Tower for all to see that France now was under the dominion of Germany. As a result of the astonishing defeat of France, tens of thousands of Frenchmen who had publicly spoken out against Nazism, especially French Jews, many of whom had been victimized by Hitler's anti-Semitic hatred, sought to escape the German onslaught by fleeing to southern France. Most of these refugees sought shelter in Marseille, southern France's metropolis on the Mediterranean Sea. Why southern France? Why did throngs of people flee to southern France and seek refuge there? Well, southern France and its capital, Marseille, were not occupied by the German army, but by a puppet French regime allied with Hitler. And Marseille offered the desperate refugees an escape for another reason. It was a major port city, a harbor city, offering the refugees a possible escape route from Germany. Marseille was situated not far from the Spanish border as well, offering another possible path to freedom through Spain, then through Portugal, which were both neutral during the war, to the port city of Lisbon. That was the hope of tens of thousands of refugees. Among the refugees pouring into Marseille were also thousands of German Jews who had only recently fled to France to escape Nazism in Germany. Now, tragically, they found themselves running for their lives yet again. And those refugees who had been openly critical of Hitler, especially if they were members of the Jewish faith, were now labeled by the Nazi regime as unerwünscht, undesirable, unerwünscht. And it was known that the puppet French regime, allied with Germany, headquartered in the town of Vichy, France, had agreed to surrender on demand any of these undesirables to the Nazi Gestapo secret police. That was the understanding and the agreement. And so very soon, by the way, that's the source of Varian Fry's, the title of Varian Fry's book, Surrender on Demand. And so very soon, during the summer of 1940, the French Vichy police began combing southern France and Marseille, especially Marseille, searching for Hitler's undesirables. When arrested, they were handed over to the Gestapo for deportation to concentration camps and ultimately to a tortuous death. The refugees knew that any day the French police could be knocking on their door. Meanwhile, in New York City, 10 days later, on June 25th, 1940, a few days after the fall of France, an urgent meeting took place at the Commodore Hotel. It was a meeting attended by hundreds of concerned Americans who were anxious about the plight of the many thousands trapped in Marseille. The result of that meeting was the birth of the ERC, the Emergency Rescue Committee, known today as the International Rescue Committee, originally known as the Emergency Rescue Committee to save those who were trapped in Marseille. The overt aim of the newly formed Emergency Rescue Committee, the ERC, was to reach out to the tens of thousands of refugees in Marseille and provide them with relief, with food, with clothing, with shelter, with medical attention. But the Emergency Rescue Committee had an unspoken ulterior goal. Its ulterior goal, alluded to in the word rescue, was to find a way to rescue, that is truly rescue, those who were stranded in Marseille and Vichy, France, by getting as many of them as possible out of France and out of Europe. And so with that goal in mind, a few days later, several members of the ERC met with First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, asking her to use her influence to obtain emergency entry visas into the United States for the purpose of extricating the refugees in Marseille. Eleanor Roosevelt, in turn, pleaded with her husband, pleaded with the United States State Department on their behalf, and was given 200 visas, 200 emergency entry visas, just 200. Why only 200? Well, one must remember that at this point, the summer of 1940, the United States was not yet at war with Nazi Germany and actually was trying to stay out of the war. The State Department was therefore reluctant to irritate the Vichy French regime, which was allied with Hitler. And besides, most Americans at the time were simply not inclined to welcome a large number of refugees into this country. When Mrs. Roosevelt came back to the ERC, the Emergency Rescue Committee, with the embarrassingly small number of 200 visas, the committee decided that a list ought to be drawn up of the 200 most prominent writers, artists, musicians, and scientists who were holed up in Marseille. These individuals, it was thought, most of whom were Jewish, would surely be on Hitler's hit list, his arrest list. Perhaps it was thought it would be possible to at least rescue these world-famous figures. And then the question arose, who will actually put the bell on the cat? Who will do it? Who will go? Who will actually be willing to go to France to pull off such a mission? Who will be willing to fly to Europe, travel to Marseille, and under the watchful eye of the Vichy police and Nazi Gestapo, set up an underground rescue network? Who would be willing to take such a risk? Well, only one member in the audience that day at the Commodore Hotel, only one member of the newly founded Emergency Rescue Committee raised his hand that day and offered to do it and said, I will do it. One man, Varian Fry, 32-year-old Varian Fry. Now, although Fry volunteered for this dangerous mission, he was a most unlikely candidate. Varian had majored in classical literature, in Greek and Latin at Harvard. He had absolutely no experience in refugee work, zero experience in the world of visas and passports, and he certainly had no experience in underground resistance. But Varian Fry's hand was the only one that shot up that day. And so it was that in August 1940, a young man by the name of Varian Fry flew to Lisbon, Portugal, traveled to Marseille with $3,000 in cash taped to his leg under his pants, equivalent to around $70,000 today. And tucked into his pocket was a list of 200 names, 200 refugees, among them the famous sculptor Jacques Lipschutz, the Nobel Prize winner Dr. Otto Meyerhoff, the acclaimed harpsichordist, world-famous harpsichordist Wanda Landowski, the well-known philosopher Hannah Arendt, and an artist whose name at birth was Moshe Siegel, but now was known as Marc Chagall. Fry's mission was to locate these 200 individuals, facilitate their escape from Europe, along with their families, of course, and then return to New York in 1 month. That was the mission. I call it Mission Impossible, but that was the mission. And he accepted it. Yes, they gave him 1 month. And incredibly, Fry succeeded in accomplishing it. He was able to get those 200 endangered people and their families out of France to freedom and a new life here in the United States. But friends, that's not why we've gathered here this morning. And it's not why Connecticut just declared October 15th as Varian Fry Day. You see, after that month was over, in September 1940, Fry made a profound and monumental decision. He decided to disobey orders and remain in Marseille, and that's why we're here. Conscientious disobedience. Against his orders, he decided to remain and to use his newly acquired skills, because he said to himself, I know how to rescue these people. Why am I going home? I learned how to do it. Let me continue to and so he continued to save lives. In September 1940, he disobeyed the ERC's clear instructions that he return. And he continued to help anyone and everyone, not just the famous, not just the celebrities, anyone and everyone who approached him. He tried to help them escape German persecution. As a result, fairly soon, the Vichy police started getting suspicious. They were on to him. They began surveilling him. They began stalking him. They began wiretaping him. But Fry continued with his life-saving work. And when the United States State Department demanded that Fry stop his activities at once, cease and come home, and refused to renew his passport, he kept on going, kept on saving people. And when the ERC, the Emergency Rescue Committee itself, which was under great pressure from Cordell Hull, the Secretary of State, insisted that Fry return, he ignored their telegrams and continued with his life-saving work. In fact, when Fry's exasperated wife wrote him, Varian, come home, please, he replied to his wife, look at the cover of the handout. There it is. Why don't you read it together? Let's read this together to really get a sense of what's going on in the heart and soul of this amazing guy, this 32-year-old hero. Let's read it together. We've started something here we can't stop. Hundreds are depending on us. We can't just tell them we're leaving. I could no more abandon them than I could abandon my own children. He's talking about strangers, children. He's talking about total strangers. Why did Fry do this? What was it that motivated him to put in 16 hours a day, 17 hours a day, 7 days a week to help strangers of another religious faith? Fry was Christian. What was it that drove him to put himself at such great risk and knowingly ruin his reputation? Well, he tries to answer that question in his book, Surrender on Demand, which I urge you to read. I say he tries because ultimately it's unfathomable. After daily looking into the eyes of the many thousands of frantic refugees in Marseille, he explains, I just couldn't remain idle. As long as I had any chance of saving even a few of these victims, I had to do it. That's it. In other words, it's inexplicable. It's something that happened in his soul. Fry felt he had no choice. He couldn't simply abandon the refugees trapped in Marseille. Once he had learned how he could help people escape from the Nazi hell, he felt it would be unconscionable for him not to do it. And as a result, Fry ended up spending not just 1 month, but 13 months From August 1940 till September 1941, during those 13 months, Fry enabled many of his rescuees to escape to nearby Spain and then Lisbon, Portugal, where the refugees waited with bated breath for ships bound for any country that might possibly accept them. But how, you ask? How was Varian Fry able to do all of this alone? Well, the answer is he did not do it alone. You see, he quickly assembled a team in Marseille of like-minded, young, tireless idealists who were also committed to saving lives. But how, you ask? How did Fry manage to rescue so many who lacked the necessary papers? The crucial exit visa from France, the transit visas through Spain and Portugal, and of course, the indispensable entry visa to another country. Fry also answers this question in his book. If a family lacked an exit visa from France, a transit visa to Lisbon, an entry visa to countries around the globe, Fry would send this family to his team of forgers. Yes, he located talented forgers in Marseille who were able to skillfully produce fake documents. It was they who created bogus entry visas to destinations such as the French colony of Martinique or Algeria, or even exotic Shanghai, China, where my father escaped. May he rest in peace. Through another source, an amazing diplomat, Shiune Sugihara, the Japanese ambassador or consul in Lithuania, another hero. And as for those who were unwilling to take a chance with a forged exit visa and were healthy and physically fit enough to journey on foot, why, Fry enlisted the help of mountain guides who led his rescuees over the Pyrenees Mountains through secret passageways on secret mountain trails into Spain. But what if his rescuees lacked the most basic of papers? A passport. Yes, after all, German Jews had been stripped of German citizenship back in 1935. They were stateless. They had no passport. Well, Fry would send those panic-stricken souls to his new buddy, his new friend, Hiram Bingham IV, whom Fry simply called Harry. It was just easier. Hiram, or Harry Bingham, was the vice consul at the American consulate in Marseille. It was Hiram Bingham IV, another hero from Connecticut, whose courageous collaboration with Fry cost him his reputation and his position at the consulate. He was shut down and removed by the State Department. It was Bingham who courageously supplied the refugees with a document he called a special affidavit in lieu of a passport. And it worked, issuing thousands of unauthorized entry. By the way, you'll see evidence that it worked because Danielle Kinslinger is going to, do you have the passport with you? Or the visa? You didn't bring it?
Well, it's not from Hiram, it's from Miles Standish.
Miles Standish, yeah, but it's his deputy.
Yes.
Yeah. Issuing thousands of unauthorized entry visas to the United States along with the affidavits. These were all unauthorized visas. Fry would refer to Bingham as my partner in crime, the crime of saving lives. You may remember that we honored Bingham right here, posthumously, along with his intrepid deputy, Miles Standish, at our 2012 Kristallnacht commemoration. Now, please look at the handout, photo number 2. Oh, thank you. Oh, this is it? Oh, thanks.
My sister's.
I see. Perfect. That's your sister?
Yes.
Perfect. Laura. Is Laura here? Hi, Laura. You may remember, yeah, so let's read this at the bottom. Not in unison, I'll read it. Varian Fry and Hiram Bingham IV collaborated to help people escape Nazi-occupied France. Bingham, a vice consul at the American consulate in Marseille provided Fry's refugees with diplomatic assistance. Their activities ultimately led the United States to recall Bingham and compel Fry to leave France. Pictured above, this is an amazing photograph. Pictured above, Varian Fry and Hiram Bingham in 1941 view a new Chagall painting. That's his latest painting, and it's outside the artist's home, as they urge the Chagall family to leave at once, because Chagall said, it'll blow over, it'll blow over. They actually went to his house, the two of them. Bingham and Fry went to his home and said, leave now. Here's the visa, leave now. Pictured from left to right are Varian Fry, Marc Chagall, Bella Chagall, and Hiram Bingham behind Bella. Great, great picture. Isn't it Bella? That's Chagall's granddaughter, Bella Meyer. Yeah. Another question, you ask, how did he pay for all this? How did he pay for this ambitious rescue operation? How did Fry cover these daunting expenses? Well, the ERC did in fact send him some money once in a while, but after a while, he began to do his own fundraising, quietly, in Marseille, seeking out affluent Frenchmen sympathetic to his cause. However, in September 1941, 13 months later, the Vichy French police suddenly knocked at his door and said, you must leave at once. Pack, you have 1 hour to pack and leave. And the Vichy police informed him that his expulsion had been ordered by the Vichy French government with the approval of the American embassy. How disheartening. With the approval of the American embassy. And then the French police drove him to the Spanish border and physically threw him out of France, expelled him. During those 13 months, Varian Fry led what is widely regarded as the most successful private rescue operation in World War II. During this time, his time in Marseille, Fry saved between 1,500, we don't know exactly how many, at least 1,500, around maybe it's closer to 2,000 people, at least 1,500, probably closer to 2,000. Now, no sooner had Varian Fry returned to American shores, guess what? Remember J. Edgar Hoover? The FBI placed him on the orders of J. Edgar Hoover under surveillance as a subversive agent. As a result, Fry had difficulty finding a stable employment, but managed to land a job as a language teacher in a high school here in Connecticut, in Fairfield County. And so Varian Fry settled in Connecticut. He resided in Easton and in Ridgefield and taught Greek and Latin at the Joel Barlow High School. Did I get it right, Dr. Pettigrew? In Reading, Connecticut. Fry passed away unexpectedly in 1967 at the age of 59. At the time of his passing, he was still filled with bitterness over the treatment, or rather mistreatment, he received from the United States government. But relatively recently, around 25 or 30 years ago, a new understanding, I should say a true understanding, of Varian Fry and what he achieved in France began to surface around the world. And as a result, a worldwide effort emerged to reverse decades of misjudgment about his legacy, to rectify the injustice that was done to him. Too late, sadly, for Varian Fry to see. This effort, the effort to redeem Fry's legacy, began most visibly in 1994 with an announcement by Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial Center, that the State of Israel had decided in 1994 to bestow upon Varian Fry the title Chassid Umot Ha'olam, righteous among the nations, in recognition of his selfless, life-saving work. Then came an announcement from Germany that a prominent street in Berlin would be called, from now on, Varian Fry Straße, Varian Fry Street, in the middle of Berlin, to this very day. I don't know how many Berliners know the meaning of that name, but there it is. And as a result, more and more events began to take place around the world, expressing admiration for Fry and his accomplishments. In 1996, to underscore this new appreciation for what Varian Fry did, Olav Hashalom, may he rest in peace, and may his memory continue to bless us. United States Secretary of State Warren Christopher traveled to Israel to plant a tree in Fry's honor. Please look at the picture, and would you turn to, that's it. There's Warren Christopher, Secretary of State, and at that occasion, you see him with a shovel in his hand, and that is Varian's son, I believe, who's also planting a tree at Yad Vashem's Garden of the Righteous. At that occasion, Secretary Christopher publicly apologized to the world, apologized to Fry posthumously and to his family for the United States government's treatment, or rather mistreatment, of Varian Fry. Secretary Christopher said at the time, "Our faith in humanity," this is amazing, "our faith in humanity after the Holocaust is restored, only restored. Our faith in humanity is only restored by the knowledge that in the face of evil, there were ordinary people like Varian Fry who were capable of summoning extraordinary courage to defy overwhelming brutality." Secretary Christopher in 1996. And friends, fellow Connecticuters, hard to pronounce that, Connecticuters, very recently, in June, this past June, Varian Fry's legacy was redeemed here in his home state by the passage of the Varian Fry Day Bill. And more about that wonderful news in a short while, for the presentation of the United States Senate Certificate of Special Recognition, as well as the presentation of a special Connecticut citation to the family of Varian Fry, which the family will receive on Varian's behalf. Now, before this takes place, a brief note. At this point in the program, as many of you must remember, we've invited Senator Richard Blumenthal to come forward and present the United States Senate Certificate of Special Recognition to the families of the heroes that we've honored. And for 18 consecutive years, the senator has graciously made time to be with us at our Kristallnacht commemoration. But last night, the senator's scheduler, Theodore, called me to let me know that the senator is still in Washington, working nonstop with a group of senators, fellow senators, to finally resolve the government shutdown, this awful shutdown. Did I hear a yay just now? And the senator, through his scheduler, apologized profusely and will need to miss this year's commemoration for the first time in 19 years. Senator Blumenthal, however, did send a statement he penned concerning our gathering this morning. And as we read it, it occurred to me, and as I was about to read it, it occurred to me that of all years, this year, fortuitously, his son, State Representative Matt Blumenthal, is with us. So I asked Matt, through Theodore, would you read your dad's statement? And he said, yes. You see, State Representative Blumenthal is here with us this morning to present Varian Fry's family with a citation on behalf of the state of Connecticut. The family will receive two commendations, or two citations, this morning. And so I'll now ask Representative Blumenthal, Matt Blumenthal, to kindly make both presentations. Just a word. Matt Blumenthal is a member of the Connecticut House of Representatives from the 147th District in Fairfield County. Did I get it right? And as you've heard, it was Representative Blumenthal who was inspired by Dr. Pettigrew to strongly advocate for the passage of the Friday bill in May and see it through to its passage in June. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to call upon State Senator Matt Blumenthal and Linda Stillman. Did your heart skip a beat just now? Varian Fry's niece, who will represent the Fry family this morning. Welcome, Linda. Linda and her husband, Steve. Where's Steve? Steve Finley. Hail from the town of Hillsdale, New York. I looked it up on the map. And it's a small town, not far from the Massachusetts and Connecticut borders. And most importantly, it's only 15 minutes away from one of my favorite ski resorts, Butternut. Right? Don't you ski there? Haven't you skied there? Yes, and so do I. Great Barrington, that's Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Linda fondly remembers her Uncle Varian, and we're thrilled to welcome her this morning. Linda, please come forward.
So this is a bit of a Lador Vador moment, huh? It's a real honor to be with you today to commemorate Kristallnacht and also to celebrate the legacy of Varian Fry. I'm honored to read a statement from my father and also say a brief word on my own behalf about why this day is so meaningful and special. So first of all, from Senator Blumenthal, who very much would rather be here than Washington, D.C. right now, and very much wishes he could be. So statement from U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal for Congregation or Shalom, Kristallnacht Commemoration, November 9, 2025. I truly regret being unable to attend today's ceremony. Commemorations such as today give us resolve and strength. These moments allow us to reflect on individual courage, sacrifice, and gratitude. Individuals such as Varian Fry, a 33-year-old American who traveled to France during World War II as part of the Emergency Rescue Committee. His act of leaving America to France was an act of courage. His action of helping over 2,000 people escape the Nazis was an act of humanity. And after being expelled from France back to the United States, continued to speak out to raise awareness of the atrocities occurring in Europe. Today, we need more heroes, such as Varian Fry. It is my honor today to provide to Linda Stillman, Varian's niece, a certificate of recognition from the United States Senate posthumously for his courage, humanity, and bravery. Thank you. So, I'll do the presentation of the U.S. Senate certificate first. Anyway, and I'll also say a brief word on my own part. It was a great honor as House Chair of the Government Administration and Elections Committee to help bring Varian Fry Day with the inspiration and hard work of Professor Pettigrew and so many others to fruition. Like so many of us here today, my family has a personal connection to these stories. Just last month, I was in Frankfurt, Germany, where I walked the streets where a young Martin Blumenthal, my father's father, in 1935, went to school, was told that Jews were no longer welcome, and he realized that he had no place left in Germany. Now, he wasn't a famous artist or intellectual. He was just a young Jewish kid who saw the writing on the wall. But he found a way to get out of Germany, from Hamburg to Southampton to New York City. And over the next 3 years, he managed to get his entire nuclear family out of Germany and to the United States, finishing with his parents in late 1938. Just 1 year later, another ship left Hamburg, and it traveled across the ocean. And the SS St. Louis traveled up and down the eastern seaboard to the Caribbean, to South America, and no one would take the hundreds of Jews on that ship in. The ship went back to Europe. The Jews on board were unloaded, and over the course of the next several years, over half of them were murdered at Auschwitz. Now, to me, this dichotomous story, this juxtaposition, is a reminder that it has always been contested. What it means to be an American, what America means. No battle so great is ever won or lost over the course of several years or even over the generations. It's up to courageous, righteous people like Varian Fry to take on that mantle, to fight for those values that make our country so special. People like Varian Fry, who in Marseille, at the risk of his life, saved at least 1,500 Jewish people, some artists, some intellectuals, but many just ordinary people whose essential dignity, human dignity, he recognized was inviolable. And importantly, he worked against his government, which did not want him to be bringing Jews out of France, partially because of potential political embarrassment or complication, but also because the US government at that time had many people in it who held deep prejudice against Jews and did not view them as worthy of saving, and certainly did not want them coming to the United States. Varian Fry, with great courage and sacrifice, strived to save as many people as he could, working against his government, without support or protection. He knew what it meant to be righteous. And so, as we commemorate his memory today, in times that are certainly turbulent and contested, let us also strive to represent those values, that courage, that righteousness, those American values, those Jewish values. Just as Varian Fry was righteous among the nations, may we have the courage to be righteous in our own nation and our own times. Yehi Ratzon. And with that, I have the honor of presenting a citation from the Connecticut General Assembly. Ms. Silman, commemorate and celebrate an American hero, a Connecticut hero, Varian Fry.
Linda Stillman would like to say a couple of words. Again, Varian's niece.
Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you for these honors. This working? Thank you for honoring my uncle, Varian Fry. I'm pleased to be here today as a representative of his family. Growing up, I was aware of Uncle Varian's heroic deeds during the war. It saddened me and my family that his story had largely been forgotten. Shortly before his death in 1967, Uncle Varian was honored by France with the Croix de Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. It was the only official recognition he received in his lifetime. History is made by the documents of the past. What we know about this dramatic story is largely thanks to my Aunt Annette, who married Uncle Varian in 1950. She saved and archived all his papers, photographs, and art. She was consulted by writers and curators. She donated boxes and boxes of his papers to Columbia, as well as other libraries. As a result of these archives, the story was slowly discovered. Exhibitions, films, and books began to appear. It started in the 1990s, and it continues today. This moving ceremony honoring Uncle Varian also contributes to history, and it reminds us that history isn't just forged by bold or exceptional individuals in the past, but also by those who subsequently work behind the scenes to preserve documents and share stories, those who organize commemorative events, and those who show up to learn and share what they learn with others. All of us preserve history together. Thank you.
We're going to pause for a moment, a photo op moment, and please bear with us. It'll just take a couple of minutes. At this time, I'll call upon Dr. Pettigrew and Representative Blumenthal, Bella Meyer, Danielle Kinslinger. Please come forward, and let's take a picture. Our next speaker is Professor David Pettigrew of Southern Connecticut State University, who will speak about the importance of Varian Fry Day and what moved him to pull it off and make it a reality. Professor Pettigrew has been for years very much taken with Varian Fry's story and deeply moved by the tragic aspect of his life. He speaks of the tragedy often. And this impelled him, Dr. Pettigrew, to propose and champion a bill now known as the Varian Fry Day Bill in Connecticut, where Fry lived and where he passed away. It was Dr. Pettigrew who first introduced the idea to Connecticut State Representative Matt Blumenthal, who in turn strongly advocated for it in Connecticut's state legislature, guiding the bill through to its passage in May and the signing in June. The Friday bill was passed and signed into law by Governor Ned Lamont, who designated October 15th, Fry's birthday, as Varian Fry Day throughout the state. Thanks to Dr. Pettigrew, State Representative Matt Blumenthal, and the Connecticut legislature, Varian Fry Day is now an official date of remembrance in our state. Next October, October 15th, teachers throughout the state of Connecticut will be encouraged to teach their students about Fry's heroism. In fact, please look at the last page of this handout. Would you look at, turn on photo number 4. I'll read the bill. Be it enacted, do you see it on the last page? Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives and General Assembly convened. The governor shall proclaim October 15th of each year as Varian Fry Day to remember the late Connecticut resident Varian Fry's heroic deeds in Marseille, France, from 1940 to 1941, where he rescued more than 1,500 refugees, many of whom were Jewish, from the Nazis. Suitable exercises may be held in the state capitol and elsewhere as the governor designates for the observance of the day. At this time, it gives me pleasure to call, extreme pleasure, to call upon Dr. David Pettigrew, CSU professor and chairperson of the philosophy department at Southern Connecticut State University. Big round of applause.
Okay. Okay, thanks so much to Rabbi Wainhouse, and congratulations for his service to Or Shalom and dedication to raising awareness about Kristallnacht for the past 2 decades. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here with the congregation at Or Shalom, with honored guests, Representative Blumenthal, and Rabbi Lindsay Healy Pollock. So great to meet you, and Carol, and guests Linda, Bella, and Danielle. But I really think I have to thank Officer Gagne for introducing us. So we finally met after 40 years. That's right. Where's Officer Gagne? But so Rabbi Wainhouse has done an exemplary job, and also Representative Blumenthal, about talking about the significance of Varian Fry and his righteous deeds. And I think the idea is that I would say a little bit about the process of bringing the Varian Fry Day to reality. And so Rabbi suggested I gesture to the bill that's mounted here. It's an unofficial version of the bill that I have mounted, so you can see the language. And also, this is a copy of the bill that's certified by the Secretary of State. So if anyone's interested in having a look at that. So at the end of February, I proposed designating October 15th as Varian Fry Day in Connecticut to co-chairs Representative Matt Blumenthal and Senator May Flexer of something called the Government Administration and Elections Committee. Is that correct? Got that. And as best as I can remember, I learned about Varian Fry for the first time in November 1997 I was reading the New York Times. And there were a couple of articles that month because his book, Surrender on Demand, had been republished. And there was also an exhibition in New York. So there were at least 2 articles, some letters to the editor, and something about his story caught my attention and stayed with me. It must have been a combination of his courageous efforts, which were motivated by having witnessed a pogrom in the streets of Berlin in 1935, his dedication to his mission, and his perseverance in spite of adversity, and a sense that his story deserved to be told. As representative of the newly formed Emergency Rescue Committee in Marseille, he helped refugees escape from Vichy, France, and facilitated their emigration to the United States. His team carried out perilous rescue efforts, such as guiding refugees over the Pyrenees into Spain. He referred to these activities as illegal work under the nose of the Gestapo. Before his expulsion from France in 1941, as Rabbi Wainhouse mentioned, Fry's operation rescued some of the most renowned artists and intellectuals of his time because he valued the work of the artists and intellectuals. He felt he owed them his help. He was assisted by a team of courageous individuals, including Miriam Davenport, Justus Rosenberg, the youngest member of the team who survived, escaped to the United States and taught at Bard College until only recently. And he received help from Vice Consul in Marseille, Hiram Bingham, among others. He lived in Connecticut over the course of the last 2 decades of his life, including in Ridgefield, Reading, and Easton. While engaged in this project, the US government turned against him. Of course, the Vichy government turned against him, and he was shunned by the Emergency Rescue Committee. He was violating the laws of France, forging passports, spiriting people over the Pyrenees. So all to save lives, but the US felt that it couldn't support him because technically we were still neutral. So we couldn't countenance his violation of the laws of France. After he was expelled from France and returned to the United States, he kept trying to raise awareness about the Holocaust, writing letters to Eleanor Roosevelt and publishing articles. So he really never gave up. Eventually, he settled into the teaching job you heard about in Connecticut, where he passed away at the age of 59, possibly from the stress of his efforts. He was haunted by those he was unable to save. He suffered from what came to be known in our time as kind of PTSD. And he felt that he needed to write his book to effect a kind of catharsis that would allow him to live with himself again, to be able to sleep again, he wrote. He said, if I put it all down, then maybe others will understand and be moved and want to do something to help. That is why I decided I must tell the story now. Varian Fry died in 1967 in relative anonymity, but in 1994 was the first American to be recognized as righteous among the nations by Yad Vashem. It seemed to me, as Rabbi Wainhouse said, unfortunate and even tragic that his extraordinary deeds continue to be generally unknown. Now, with the vision and advocacy of Representatives Blumenthal, Christopher Rosario, and others, we have Varian Fry Day in Connecticut. Having read his book and available research, I began including his story in my classes, facilitating a campus-wide read, a book panel discussion at SCSU, and other discussions. I was giving lectures about Fry in France and in the US at local synagogues and schools. Even I went to a middle school in New Haven to talk about Fry. The kids were amazed. I was approached by Rita Frost and Marion Percy, who wanted to create a statue for Fry someplace in the States. So we worked on that for a while, and we haven't given up on that idea. And for a few years, Miriam Glenn and I curated a Holocaust exhibit in the library at SCSU, an exhibit that included information about Fry and Bingham. Now, after the state passed a law in 2018 requiring Holocaust and genocide education in the schools, I began offering workshops about Fry for teachers. Due to my human rights work in Bosnia, I was asked to help with a bill that was proposed in 2023 to recognize July 11th as Bosnian Genocide Remembrance Day in Connecticut. So I submitted written testimony and oral testimony in support of that bill, which was approved unanimously, and I think Connecticut was the first state to have such a law. But that is when I learned about the Government Administration and Election Committee that considers such bills. So that was in 2023. So in February, after sitting on the idea for 2 years, I finally wrote a long email with numerous links to reputable sources to Representative Blumenthal and subsequently to his co-chair, Senator Flexer. The breakthrough came when a short time later, Representative Blumenthal wrote back to me and said he agreed that Fry should have such a day named after him and that he would add my proposal to the list of days and weeks under consideration. So that's what I like to call miracle number one. They received such a positive response. And you can follow, I learned that you can follow these bills on the Connecticut General Assembly website. I subsequently discovered that Varian Fry Day had indeed been included in Bill SB 1519. Then I mobilized a number of educators and students to write written testimony. I gave oral testimony on Zoom, and after the testimony, I wrote to legislators to encourage them to support the bill. Then I really want to recognize Representative Rosario, because I met him at a reception at Southern at the honors convocation. His son had graduated with honors. And I was telling Representative Rosario the story, I'm telling you, and he immediately responded very positively and said that he couldn't believe we didn't have such a day yet, and he became a passionate advocate for the bill. He also happens to be a deputy speaker of the House. And so then and there, he became a passionate advocate for the bill. So I refer to Chris Rosario as miracle number two. And then Chris communicated with Matt and I moving forward. The votes, as you heard, took place May 7th in the Senate, May 7th in the Senate, and then May 30th in the House, and it was signed by Governor Lamont on June 10th. So now, Varian Fry Day is a matter of law, providing official recognition of Fry's righteous deeds in our state, in the state in which he lived over the past 2 decades of his life. By remembering and raising awareness about Varian Fry, we transmit the values he held dear, that we hold dear, such as our love for democracy, an appreciation or even being in awe of the creative potential of the human imagination, and our inclination to resist injustice. We pass these values on to future generations. Raising awareness about Varian Fry enables us to resist Holocaust denial more effectively. A UN resolution adopted January 20th, 2022, urged member states to develop educational programs that will inculcate future generations with the lessons of the Holocaust in order to help prevent future acts of genocide. So Varian Fry Day helps us achieve that goal. In European law, Holocaust denial is seen as a form of hate speech. So it's criminalized and prosecuted. I conferred with Varian's son, who agreed that October 15th, Fry's birthday, was suitable as it falls within the school year. So teachers will be encouraged to share Fry's stories with their students. And on Election Day this past week, I presented a workshop about Fry for teachers. This is organized by the Hero Center at Voices of Hope in Farmington. We host the professional development days at Southern. So teachers came from Thomaston, Weston, Norwich, and Fairfield. I had to get out my map and see where all these places were. Of course, Fairfield I knew about. But one teacher from Weston, which is next to where Fry was teaching, was moved by my presentation and said she planned to prepare educational activities for her class for Fry. So I thought that was progress. After Fry was expelled from France, he wrote to his wife Eileen on September 7, 1941, from Barcelona. I have fought a fight, he wrote, against enormous odds, of which, in spite of the final defeat, I think I can always be proud. And today we are proud and grateful for his efforts on behalf of humanity. So may Varian Fry's memory be a blessing, and may we be inspired by his courage as we in our time resist hatred, anti-Semitism, and injustice in all its forms. Our thanks again to Rabbi Wainhouse recognizing Varian Fry Day as part of your annual Kristallnacht commemoration. So thank you.
At this time, we are pleased to call upon one Bella Meyer, who traveled here this morning from her home in Manhattan. Just had a cup of coffee with her about a week and a half ago. Bella is the granddaughter of Marc and Bella Chagall, her grandpapa and grandmama, who, along with her mother Ida, was saved by Varian Fry. Bella is an artistic florist, and the owner of Flor Bella. Did I get it right? I got it right? In Manhattan. I was there. It's a very busy, amazing florist shop on East 11th, 55 East 11th. Did I get it right? Yes. On the store's website, Bella informs us, my grandpapa, my grandfather Marc, always had a bouquet of flowers in his studio. Welcome, Bella Meyer. Can I give you a hug? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bella, we're so grateful that you're here with us this morning. And what, pray tell, are your sentiments this morning as we honor the man who saved your family? Bella.
Hello?
Right here.
Hello? Oh, okay. I'm deeply moved. I'm very thankful. I feel honored. And in awe again for the few or the many who had and have the courage to act for humankind, to act for the best in all of us. And therefore it's very special to be here, because it is very much thanks to Varian Fry and Hiram Bingham that I'm here, and that I can communicate and live and try to bring some hope and beauty, which I'm looking for all the time. And so I would like to thank you, all of you, both rabbis and the congregation and the whole community you have, for organizing this and celebrating what is best in us human people. An ideal which clearly Varian Fry had. And that's what my grandfather always asked us. He would not talk about the war years, but he would ask us, children, whenever we would come and see him, if we had found our ideal. I had no idea what he talked about. But being polite, growing up in Switzerland and very well sort of educated in politeness, I said, "Mais oui, grand-papa." I had no idea. He would also ask if we loved him, if we loved his painting. "Mais oui, grand-papa." I mean, this, I think he knew that I loved him, actually adored him, but he also knew that I had no idea what he talked about with the ideal. And he never did talk about Varian Fry to us. My mother did, our mother did, and so it is also in her honor, with what how she worked and remained friends with Varian Fry shortly until she died. Until he died. I more recently found wonderful letter exchanges, and actually I can't remember if it is your Aunt Annette Fry who gave them to me, or if I found them in the archives, in the Chagall archives in Paris. I can't remember, but it was a wonderful, wonderful moment when I indeed met Annette years after I came and moved to New York, and thanks to the David Wyman Institute, met with her and had a wonderful time listening to her extraordinary wit and rather sharp words, but also to meet Jim Bingham, one of Hiram Bingham's sons, and I don't remember which other brother, and so this was extraordinary. Now, my mother would talk to us about whatever she did. She would always tell us that she would climb over the Pyrenees. And then years later, I tried to understand, what did it mean? What was it? What did she actually do? And learning about Varian Fry much later, I understood that she actually, after her parents had left, already thanks to Varian Fry, that she needed to go to Spain without a visa yet, because Varian Fry hadn't been able to give her and Hiram Bingham hadn't been able to give her a visa yet, nor the transit visas which were necessary to her and to her husband, Michel, her first husband, she had, and they married very young. And so she had to climb over with Varian Fry's informations of how to do it, with the guides, to go all the way to Madrid, because all the paintings which Varian Fry was able to have shipped from Spain to Portugal, even before Bella and Marc Chagall were able to take the train, was intercepted in Madrid. And so she had to go, and I don't know what she had to do to persuade the authorities to let the shipment go. and so that the shipment was able to come all the way to Lisbon, and so that my grandparents were able to bring most of them. One was still stuck to New York. So Varian Fry, when he arrived in Marseille with the list of the 200, he immediately tried to contact everybody, all these famous artists. Many said no right away. There was Matisse, there was Picasso, there were no. They all didn't want to go. He called and wrote to Chagall. He said no, because Chagall, in the meantime, thanks to my mother, she was 23 years old, and who had understood how dangerous it was, also because of her husband, because he was in the resistance, that they absolutely had to leave Paris before the invasion. And so she pushed them out. She wrapped all the paintings he had, unframed them and rolled them, and took them first to a hotel in the Loire Valley. Then a few months later realized, no, they had to go down, and so went, and they were able to buy a house in Gordes, a little further up from Marseille, in an old stone house, which was a former girls' religious school, and which had been abandoned. And so the village, I guess, sold it to them very, very cheaply. And so they were there. My grandparents had just gotten the French passports after years of trying to get it, like just 3 years before. They finally got the passports. And so when Varian Fry and Hiram Bingham were in touch with them, they said, no, we don't have them, we are French. What should happen? And it's only when the law came that, well, Jews weren't really desired in France, in Vichy France anymore, and that their passports were annulled, that he realized that they had to go. And so they went to Marseille to meet them, and Hiram Bingham was tried to figure out what to do in them. And in the meantime, here in New York, Alfred Barr, the first director of the Museum of Modern Art, together and especially with his wife Margaret Barr, were very instrumental to organize all the funds and possibilities to get new passes, new visas for other people, but also for Chagall. And Alfred Barr had officially asked the State Department back in November of 1940 to prepare all the different visas for him. But it took them 4 months to do so. What's his name? And Hiram Bingham and Varian Fry didn't even know that Alfred Barr had asked for it. Hiram Bingham then, at some point, he could just do it very easily, as we heard before. And Varian Fry had an official office, public, which Vichy sort of accepted. And then at night, they had the underground office, where all the other things happened. And so that's how eventually, with all the things, that all the other people were able, but not enough, were able to be saved. and including my grandfather and grandmother, they finally, after Varian Fry and Hiram Bingham had visited them in Gordes, you see have this beautiful photograph you saw before of them visiting in Gordes, they finally came to Marseille ready to go. And it was in May of 1941. And so there were, and the paintings are left by train, as it was supposed to do. But then Vichy decided to have a raffle, and all Jews were imprisoned. I don't know how it's that Bella, my grandmother, wasn't taken, but my grandfather was imprisoned. And Bella immediately calls Varian Fry and said, he has been imprisoned. He calls one of the big agents, police agents, and says, do you want for me to write to the New York Times now, right away, and tell them what a terrible scandal is that you imprisoned Marc Chagall, or will you let him free? Half an hour later, he was free. So it's really, thanks to Varian Fry that he was free. And so then they could leave, and with delays back in Lisbon, because the artworks haven't arrived, but finally they came. They were greeted by their many friends in New York. My mother and her husband had it more difficult, and Varian Fry, at the last moment before he had to leave, was finally able to give them all the different visas, and they left also. But the funders in America refused to give money for the daughter of Marc Chagall. And so they had to look locally how to be able to find money to have it all. Finally, they did find the money, and so they reunited just after Bella and Marc Chagall had, in the beginning, spent some time in near here, in Connecticut, thanks to Calder and Masson, and then moved back to Manhattan and you reunite with my mother. Thank you so very much.
Beautiful, just beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking.
See, I didn't even look at it.
Of course. Thank you. Bella showed me her notes and said I didn't even need the notes. It came straight from her heart. One more speaker before we conclude. Danielle Kinslinger. Danielle's family, a German Jewish family, fled to France before the war to escape the Nazi regime in Germany. And in 1940, when the German tanks rolled into France, Danielle's family fled to the southern zone and Marseille. And then the miracle happened. The miracle of Hiram Bingham and Varian Fry. Danielle, please come forward. Where's the basket? Now Danielle comes with a basket. I'm going to show this. Notice the basket. Please tell us, what is the meaning of this basket?
Well,
right here. Yes.
I was born on May 10th, 1940, the day the Nazis invaded Holland, Belgium, and France. A terrible day for Europe and the world. And this is the basket that my mother carried me in from Saumur, where I was born, down to Périgueux, which was a city in Vichy, France, where German Jews from Alsace-Lorraine, Strasbourg, evacuated to and were supported by the Joint, which is now the United Jewish Appeal. They were given food, lodgings, and such, and we stayed there for a while. I had some words prepared, but now I'm not I'll just look at them. And we stayed there. I was born in 1940. 4 weeks later, my mother put me into this basket. She sewed, it's still the same as it was. It survived 85 years. She sewed a towel inside it, which everybody always loves this basket. It has survived. Exactly how she made it survive on the ship when we came to America, I don't know, but she did. We didn't bring much, but we brought this and our family, which was the important thing. Anyway, so we left from Saumur, which is in the middle of France. I went with my mother, my aunt, and my cousin. We went on bicycles, my mother, me in this, on a bicycle with my aunt and my cousin, and we drove down 300 miles from Saumur to Périgueux. On the way, my mother, they had to stop in a little village, and she had a gold watch that my father had given her because of my birth. She exchanged that for papers, so I would have papers when I arrived, and when they passed the border from France into Vichy France. And she gave me, people always like that, she gave me a little patch on my tush, and I started to cry, so they just said, go, get going. She was also, happened to be very attractive, and they didn't mind looking at her, I think. That's what I was told. I was obviously only 4 weeks old. So then we arrived, first in Périgueux, and from Périgueux we went, my parents, my aunt, my uncle, and 2 cousins, and of course my sister, who was sitting over there, Laura. We went from Périgueux down to Marseille, and we were in Marseille, and we were taken, we stayed in a hotel. My father and my aunt went to the American embassy every single day. We also had the luck that the concierge in the hotel played cards with the consul, I think with Hiram Bingham, but the paper we have, I have one from my father, and this is the one from my sister.
Danielle, this is amazing. This is the affidavit in lieu of a passport created by Bingham and Standish. Miles Standish was Bingham's deputy or assistant. And this is the affidavit.
That's right.
This is mind-blowing.
So there were 3
They
people,
created something called an affidavit in lieu of a passport.
and there were 3 wonderful American heroes, of course, who saved us. Varian Fry, Hiram Bingham, and Miles Standish.
And this is your sister Laura right here.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
Beautiful then and beautiful now.
and we left from, then we got the passports, not passports, whatever, affidavits to leave.
In lieu of passport.
Yes, in May 1941, just in time to get out. It must have been the same time that your grandfather left. But we didn't leave the same route. We got a ship from Marseille, the Winnipeg, which apparently when it came back to Marseille or on the way back was bombed by the Nazis. Sunk, bombed. And we arrived in New York, and relatives picked us up. And
What was the miracle? There was a miracle. How did they even know, your father and mother know about Hiram Bingham? Was there a bridge game of some kind?
Yes, they played cards with the concierge in the hotel.
And he mentions...
And my father was a very friendly, big fellow, and he also gave chocolates, apparently, to the secretaries at the consul every time he went, which was almost every day with my aunt.
Yes.
And so, personality, luck, timing.
Yes.
And Hiram Bingham.
Through a bridge game.
Yes, but these 3 men were the ones who were magical in making sure that we got out.
And tell us about your family. Do you have a large family that was?
Well, I don't have such a large family because my grandparents and my two aunts were murdered. They were taken from Holland and to Auschwitz. But I did want to say that there are 30 human beings now, besides my sister and me, who are alive today because of the heroic, unselfish, humanistic deeds of these three Americans. They live in Vermont, Ohio, Kentucky, where else? Connecticut, New York.
Yes.
So that's
Amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. If there are any questions,
Yes, I actually, Danielle,
yes.
you mentioned something that still echoes within me. You said there's something about American, because we schmoozed about this on the phone.
Yes, we
American decency that propelled these three people, Fry, Bingham,
And Standish.
and of course Miles Standish. I think that would be a nice closing statement. What do you mean by American decency?
Well, I think there's an American soul which is very special, and hopefully the future will show up these people again as they are now, but not as many as we need. And
My mother always said, Alvin, remember one thing. America, I'm going to get emotional. America is a special place. She would, if she heard the national anthem being sung anywhere, she would stand and salute. Do you remember how the final broadcast on your TV when you, I'm showing my age, when you were young, what was the final broadcast at midnight? Oh, say, can't, right, with the flag fluttering? My mother would stand, even for that.
Well, my parents were very thankful that we were saved because many people in our family were not saved. And we felt that Americans were very welcoming. I know we had some neighbors who in White Plains where we lived, and my mother had never met a couple like that. They were, not Jewish, older, and they welcomed us, even though my parents both had German accents. They were wonderful, and my mother had lost her mother, so she considered this woman a little bit of her own mother. It was really very nice.
Yes. We are miracles. Listen, folks, the hour is getting late, and Rachel, our administrator, is chomp at the bit because of Hebrew school dismissal, and she made me promise we would end by around 11:30. So we're going to bring can I give you a hug, Danielle? Because the truth is we're both miracles along with Bella. We shouldn't be here.
And we've known each other for 50 years? How many of them?
44 years.
44, you've been at the synagogue?
I've known you 44
Yes.
years, that's right.
Yes, and
44
Rabbi
years.
Wainhouse bat mitzvahed both of my daughters.
Yes,
So
yes.
he's a special guy.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Danielle, it was perfect. It was so perfect. Thank you so much. It was beautiful, beautiful.
Good.
At this time, I'll call upon Sarah Derer, the chairperson of our Education Committee, for a few brief announcements.
Hi. First, I want to thank the Congregation Or Shalom Men's Club for their ongoing support of this annual event. I also want to thank the Selman family and Mr. James Shore for your generous support of the Kristallnacht program. I know in my house, when anything goes wrong with tech, I call my husband tech support, but here at Or Shalom, it's Eric Severs, so thank you, Eric, for everything you do. And of course, thank you to Rabbi Wainhouse, who conceived this program. Well, he conceived the idea of having this Kristallnacht program 19 years ago. And every year we look forward to hearing who we're going to be honoring and what, because we can get these wonderful examples of how to act. And I think now, particularly, it's so easy when you hear the news to feel helpless and hopeless. And Varian Fry's example is so powerful because in taking action, that is how we can stop feeling hopeless and helpless. So thank you all for attending this morning, and onward. Thank you.
And one last announcement. Our president, our esteemed president, Bob Spaulding, would you please bring a couple of announcements to the congregation?
Good morning all, and we're going to take one more brief pause for commercials. At the table in the back are a couple of members from our fundraising committee, and they are selling yahrzeit candles. They are indeed wax, but embedded is an LED that's battery powered. Very convenient, very portable. Please see the folks at the back. Secondly, next Saturday evening, November 15th, starting at 7 p.m., is our annual fundraising. It is going to be an evening of music and dance with a band, a wonderful band named Wango Tango. The details are on flyers. Also in the back of the room, there are some more out in the lobby, and you may also find that on the website. You know, behind me, on the near to me, there's a single word on the bottom, and it says Zachor, or remember. And that's what we're doing this morning. We're remembering the events surrounding Kristallnacht. We are acknowledging what happened then. We are embracing that as part of our tradition. We're studying the event and we're learning from it. And it's with this noble commemoration that we continue to do the same. It is what I would call a standing gig, because we have this on our operational calendar in years going forward. Please consider donating to any or all of this morning's causes. And they are the Or Shalom's Men's Club Yellow Candle Program, the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, Congregation Or Shalom, and the International Rescue Committee, which is helping to provide food and clothing and shelter, water, medical supplies to, I think it's over now 40 countries around the world. So if you go to the Or Shalom website, or if you choose to put some money into the buckets that are out on the table in the foyer, please do so. It is greatly appreciated. I wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And let's end today by singing a song, God Bless America. Would you please rise? And we now call upon the principal of our Hebrew school, Cantor Kochava Monroe, who will lead us.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, President Bob. Just a word. Just a little while ago, I became aware of the presence of an artist. His name is Jim Cassell. Is that you, Jim? And Jim brought a painting of Varian Fry, which you're welcome to take a closer look at. It's right here on the bima, on the altar. Thank you, Jim. What a moving, of course it's Fry in his older years, his later years, obviously. But you took a little artistic license, I see. What is it? I think it was, the photograph was in 67. From the photograph taken by Fred Stein. I see. And you took the liberty of the artistic license of placing a yellow Star of David on his lapel, which is even more touching, even more poignant. Thank you so much. Please feel free to take a closer look. And let's join together now in God Bless America as we remember true American heroes, Varian Fry, Hiram Bingham, Miles Standish.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.